today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this per Instagram post from reigning WBC minimum weight champion Tina Ruprecht. News update in Fresno, California. It's not just about the unification of the WBC and WBA World Championship titles, but it's about 3 big titles. We're also boxing for the legendary Ring Magazine title. Very happy and proud to be boxing for this extraordinary title.
This is the second time that Ring Magazine has attempted to crown an inaugural Ring Magazine Women's Minimum Weight Champion.
The winner of this fight would be the first in the women's minimum weight division.
The first ever.
But this is not the first time that Ring Magazine has attempted to crown an inaugural women's minimum weight champion. The first time was about 1 to 2 years ago,
circa 2020, 2021.
ahead of what was supposed to be the rematch between Tina Ruprecht and Yokasta Valle. Tina, then like now, was the reigning WBC champion, and Yokasta, she was in possession of the IBF title.
The division was a lot more divided in those days. There were actually 4 reigning minimum weight champions. Annabelle Ortiz had the WBA, Itsuko Tada, she had the WBO.
Tina had the WBC and Yokasta had the IBF. Things have changed since then.
Since then, titles have changed hands more than once.
Titles, some have already been unified. The division is a lot less divided now than it was in previous years.
Case in point.
Yokasta Valle now reigns as a unified champion, as will the winner of this fight between Tina Ruprecht and Senicia Estrada.
Now, why did Ring Magazine decide that this fight, this unification match between champions, was worthy of the Ring Magazine title and not Yokasta Valle's fight with Titu Tinunian, then WBO champion?
Why this fight? Why this unification match and not that unification match?
Well, I think that Tina Ruprecht's victory over Yokasta Valle in 2018, I think it might have something to do with that.
It might. Tina Ruprecht holds a victory over Yokasta Valle, a victory that Yokasta never avenged. They were supposed to have a rematch a few years ago, but that fell apart. That fell through.
Their rematch was supposed to be for the inaugural Women's Ring Magazine minimum weight title.
But it didn't happen. Tack on the emergence of Senicia Estrada as this division's WBA minimum weight champion. She unseated Mexico's own Annabelle Ortiz, who was then this division's longest reigning champion.
Annabelle Ortiz reigned as WBA champion from 2013 to 2021, up until Senicia took the title from her. That's something like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years?
Senicia Estrada beat her easy. Senicia Estrada beat her in one-sided fashion. That, in essence, makes Tina Ruprecht and Senicia Estrada the number 1 and number 2 minimum weights in the division, in the world.
Senicia and Tina.
Tina Ruprecht, who sports a professional record, 12 wins, no losses, and no draws, 3 knockouts.
To Senicia Estrada's 23 wins, no losses, and no draws, 9 knockouts.
East LA's own Senicia Estrada, who's widely regarded as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport of women's boxing.
Ranks in at number 6 on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list.
She could soon move up to number 5 if she pulls this off and beats yet another world champion. She's already prized the WBA title from Annabelle Ortiz.
At minimum weight.
And the WBO title from Tenkai Tsunami.
Up there at light flyweight.
If she beats Tina Ruprecht, that makes 3. 3 champions she will have pride an alphabet title away from. 3 to Alicia Baumgartner's 2.
Alicia, who currently ranks in at number 5 on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list, her division's undisputed champion.
Beat 2 reigning champions to get there. Terry Harper for the WBC, Michaela Mayer for the WBO and IBF titles.
Picked up the newly vacated WBA title along the way.
Lots to say. If Senicia Estrada can beat Tina Ruprecht, she will be able to then move past Alicia to that number 5 spot.
She would.
On the premise that she will have won more titles from more champions, and she's been a champion at more weights than Alicia. Lest we forget, Senicia is a 2-division champion, a champion at minimum weight, and she was once a champion at light flyweight. Whereas Alicia's only ever been a champion at super featherweight so far. That could soon change. When it comes to the matter of Senicia Estrada versus Tina Ruprecht,
well, Senicia saw action 3 times in 2021, only once last year, only once in 2022 due to promotional issues.
She was with Golden Boy Promotions up until last year, boxing on the DAZN platform, migrating from Golden Boy Promotions to Top Rank. That took some time, took some doing.
She finally pulled it off last year.
Made her Top Rank debut late last year in November, opposite the ring Jasmine Villarino. know.
Whereas Tina only saw action once in 2021 and only once in 2022. Only once last year.
Late last year in November.
And Sinisia's next.
Number 1 versus number 2 for the inaugural Women's Ring Magazine minimum weight title. The winner of the fight will be the first of their kind. Very first Women's Ring Magazine champion in this division.
History will be made. Lineage established.
It's a very important fight, though perhaps the most important fight in this division will be the winner of this fight versus Yo Costavalle, only other unified champion at the weight.
Who's still with Golden Boy Promotions.
It's going to be interesting to see how that breaks down, because I hardly think Estrada is going to cross back over to Golden Boy for the fight. In all likelihood, it'll be Yo Costa that has to cross over.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. That's assuming Sinicia beats Tina.
And she might. I like her chances. I like her chances a lot.
Now, keep your eyes peeled for Estrada versus Ruprecht late next month on the 25th.
In men's super lightweight news, it appears that Josh Taylor, he wanted to give everybody his side of the story. He says it's an absolute joke. Josh Taylor blames promoter Ben Shalom and Jack Catterrall for the collapse of the rematch as he moves on to fight Teofimo Lopez next.
Josh Taylor's been under fire ever since he fought this guy.
And it hasn't gotten any better, though he has made it clear that he's not ducking Jack Catterrall and that the blame lies elsewhere for their rematch not happening. The pair fought in February of last year in a fight that Taylor was expected to win comfortably as he brought his undisputed super lightweight world titles back to his home country of Scotland for the first time.
It is true. Jack Catterrall was viewed as a rather unremarkable mandatory challenger for Josh Taylor. Nobody thought he'd put on the fight that he put on.
Josh gets a decision a lot of people don't think he deserved.
One thing leads to another. They try to schedule a rematch.
Josh suffers an injury. Rematch falls apart.
And that was the story.
It was until earlier this week when it was reported that Taylor would be fighting Teofimo Lopez next instead of Jack Catterrall. This immediately led to accusations that Taylor was ducking Catterall. But now, the Scot has explained his full side of the story in an interview with Talk Sport. After the first fight, Taylor revealed that his promoters wanted him to move up to welterweight and get the big fights, but he wanted to do the rematch at the time and put all of that stuff to bed. Taylor went on to say
they wanted him to move up to welterweight to fight who?
It's a good question, but Taylor went on to say that at the time, Jack Catterall's affairs were a mess. He had to move management and promoters, which took him months. Eventually, the pair agreed a date in December, but Taylor couldn't do it because he had just changed coaches to Joe McNally in October, so wasn't going to be ready to fight in December. Ben Shalom then suggested January. Taylor told Talk Sport, but he changed his mind because they then put the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Liam Smith fight in January. You can see how that might be a problem. It was their intention to stage the both of those fights as box office fights, but you don't want to have two box office fights on the same platform in the same month.
You're asking the fight fans to go into their wallets and pay extra two times in the same month. They're not going to want to do that.
So, Eubank versus Smith lands in January, at which point he being Ben Shalom, he then came back with a February date, which I signed a contract for, but he then came back and said, do you want to do April? We can't do February because it's too close to that fight. And I said, I'm not willing to wait until April to fight Jack Catterall. It will have already been a year by then.
In a nutshell, Josh is saying that it was Ben Shalom that kept pushing the fight date back.
I don't see Ben Shalom denying any of this, but the story is still fresh.
It's entirely possible that what Josh Taylor is saying is true.
It's entirely possible that conflicting dates, a conflicting schedule, led to Taylor versus Catterall getting pushed back when it could have happened sooner.
It should have.
We then got a March 4th date, so I signed and I was ready to go. We were just about to announce the fight at the Eubank Jr. versus Liam Smith fight, but on the Monday of that fight week, I got my injury. I got my scans on Wednesday, got the results on Friday, and told Ben about it, and we couldn't get the fight announced because I was out and injured. Then, about a week later, Ben Shalom told me he got Jack another fight on March 25th, and I don't blame him for moving Jack on to get another fight. But you've moved him into another fight without...
Well, yeah, he moved him into another fight, but would he have moved him into another fight had you not gotten injured?
Perhaps not. So now, instead of getting this fight done and getting a rearranged date and getting it locked in, he's gone and got Jack another fight on March 25th.
Reports indicate that Jack Catterall could be facing Regis Prograis.
I only wonder if that's going to be his next fight, because the night of, if that's his next fight, it will have been over a year's time since Jack Catterall saw action.
As far as Josh Taylor and what he's saying,
he's moved on. So what am I supposed to do if Jack goes in against this guy and hurts his hand, or gets cut, or gets beat? You don't know. anything can happen.
Which is true.
And that's the fight completely off. So that's a stupid move from Ben Shalom, Jack, and his team. All he had to do was wait a couple of weeks until I was back, fit, and ready. Ben Shalom hasn't got a rescheduled date or venue sorted. He doesn't know anything.
Ben Shalom, who is intended to fill Eddie Hearn's shoes over there at Sky Sports ever since Matchroom and Sky parted ways.
He's younger than Eddie, less experienced, than what he is experiencing seem to be growing pains.
What it is.
Josh Taylor continued. Then on Monday, this past Monday, the WBO emailed me that they're ordering me to fight Teofimo Lopez as a mandatory, so I have to go on and do that. It's the only belt I've got left, so I want to keep this belt, and if the rematch with Jack happens, it would then be without a title. He's moved on, so why should I sit and wait? This fight can get made, but it will have to happen further down the line once I've beaten Teofimo Lopez. So all this nonsense about me ducking.
I mean, that's the gist of it. He's saying that Jack Catterrall's managerial and promotional situation was a part of the delay.
Try and remember, Jack fought Josh in February of last year. The following month, in March, he inks a pact with Probellum.
And that may have complicated things.
Might, because 5 or 6 months later, he inks another promotional pact with Boxer and Sky.
It's got to be what Josh Taylor was talking about, his managerial and promotional affairs being in disarray.
Jack's situation. Josh Taylor continued, so all this nonsense about me ducking is an absolute joke. It's out of my hands. And if anyone is to blame, it is Ben Shalom for not getting it sorted. If anybody is to blame, it is their side for taking on another fight rather than getting the fight on. This fight.
So between Jack Catterall's managerial and promotional situation, the injury that Josh Taylor suffered,
Ben Shalom getting Jack Catterrall another fight date, here we are. That's the current situation that we're in.
Jack's supposed to be fighting somebody else, presumably Regis Prograis, and Josh Taylor's supposed to be fighting Teofimo Lopez, which is no consolation prize. It's a good fight.
They're both good fights, being honest with you. Catterrall versus Prograis and Taylor versus Lopez.
Still feels like there's unfinished business, though, doesn't there?
That even if Josh Taylor can successfully defend a WBO title and make it past Teofimo Lopez, who says Jack Catterrall makes it past Regis Prograis?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to.
I think he loses that fight.
As far as Josh's next fight, Josh Taylor, he says the fight with Teofimo Lopez is bigger and harder than Catterrall anyway.
Bigger, maybe, but harder. Not based on how Teofimo looked in his last fight.
Still a feeling that Josh Taylor needs to redeem himself by fighting Jack again and making it decisive.
Making it right. They've ordered me to fight Teofimo Lopez, Taylor told Sky Sports. It's one I want to do. It's the only belt I've got left, the WBO.
So I want to keep it.
If it went and then fought Jack, I'd be fighting him with no titles. I want to keep the title. They're all my belts, but I want to keep this one. Further on down the line, Jack and me can still fight. I don't know what's going to happen now. I definitely will, but it's out of my control. It's not my fault the WBO got in touch. At the end of the day, it's out of my control. This fight with Lopez is a much bigger fight than the Catterrall fight. It's much bigger.
Somewhat.
And it's a much harder fight. He is a much higher caliber of opponent. He has been at a higher level. He's been in with better fighters. He's done the business and got the t-shirt. I think it's a better fight.
I mean, it's no consolation prize. It is a good fight.
Though Teofimo Lopez being a higher caliber of fighter than Jack Catterrall is a bit contentious because he competed at a higher caliber at a lower weight.
He didn't compete at that level as a super lightweight. He competed at a high level at lightweight.
135 pounds, not 140. At 140 pounds, so far, his campaign...
Mixed reviews.
He looked all right with the Gumpas guy, but he didn't look all right with Sandor Martin. Sandor Martin, a notoriously hard guy to look good against, a moving target, a crafty southpaw, a pure boxer.
He made Lopez look bad. He dropped Lopez 2 times, 2 unofficially, once on paper.
Nobody watched that fight and thought to themselves, Lopez is about to take super lightweight by storm. Lopez is about to take over this division. Nobody watched that fight and thought that to themselves.
When they watched Josh Taylor fight Jack Catterrall, a lot of people thought Jack Catterrall won the fight. Jack Catterrall deserves a rematch.
And I dare say that if Jack Catterrall goes in there with Regis Prograis and he loses the way I think he's going to lose, they're still going to think Josh should run it back with that guy. They're still going to think Josh owes him one.
I think so.
I have become undisputed fighting on the road, Taylor said. To say I'm afraid of Jack Catterrall is ridiculous. I just laughed. There was no one more than me who wanted to put this right, but this will happen. The way him and his team are crying about it and moaning like little kids, Taylor said of Catterrall, they're moaning crybabies. Sore losers is what they are. I don't think Jack Catterrall is going to go anywhere. He will get the chance to rectify it, but I highly doubt he is going to get near me. Catterrall is set to appear on a Sky Sports card headlined by Lawrence Okolie versus David Light, cruiserweight title bout in Manchester, England on March 25th.
And as stated, there's talks of Jack Catterrall potentially facing Regis Prograis. We just don't know when. Is it going to be on the undercard of Okolie versus Light, or will it be later on this year? It's less than ideal to fight somebody like Regis Prograis, having been out of action for over a year.
It is. That's why I question whether or not that's going to be Jack's next fight. Josh's next fight, Teofimo Lopez. There's rumors it may end up in New York. There's rumors it may end up in Las Vegas. Recent rumors, recent reports.
That don't favor Josh. He won't have home field advantage there the way he did in the Jack Catterrall fight.
Behind the scenes, the wheels must have been in motion to do this fight because, Top Rank, Bob Arum, they've always had a way with WBO.
Always had a relationship with them?
They've always been able to get their fighters in position to fight for that particular title. What this tells me is they want Teofimo fighting for the brown belt. They want to do this thing, and they might want to do it in America. That favors Teofimo.
You said that already.
Why is the question? Why would Top Rank, hypothetically speaking, prefer that Teofimo have the brown belt instead of Josh?
What's the end game?
Well, Teofimo Lopez is a younger fighter than Josh Taylor. He's got more upside.
They put the belt in his hands, they might get more out of it.
Moreover, if they put the belt in his hands, he can then defend that belt against Devin Haney upon Devin Haney's ascent to the 140-pound division, provided that Devin beats Vasyl Lomachenko.
Provided he wins. Hell, even if he loses, he may move up.
He might. The plans are still a bit immaterial between 135 and 140 pounds because I heard Bob Arum say something about matching Shakur Stevenson against the winner of Haney versus Lomachenko. But I could also see Devin Haney, if he wins, moving up.
Hell, even if he loses, he may move up.
So long as he moves up, Teofimo Lopez has got that brown belt. That's another super fight that Top Rank can make. That's another highly anticipated match.
They can make it.
I don't think it's at all far-fetched to say that Top Rank might prefer that Teofimo Lopez win that Taylor fight than Josh.
Josh Taylor. They may be attempting to leverage the situation in Teofimo Lopez's favor to alter the axis of power at 140 pounds.
Teofimo needs an edge. Home field advantage could provide him one.
Josh Taylor became an undisputed champion on the road. He took on Jose Ramirez right here in America.
Opposite the ring, Teofimo Lopez, he may need to revisit that same mindset.
The fight ends up here, he does.
And it might. Somebody wants it to.